Like I can flatten out really quick when I'm starting to get tired. And I would talk just monotone in my sits and talk about how the product works great for Mrs. Jones.
Chris, there's
and
people
falling
driving
asleep. Hey,
right now.
sorry. Wake back up, everybody. Wake back up. But,
Hello and welcome to episode 35 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lopes-Silvero, and I'm here with Chris Ball, Zach McElwain, and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you into the conversations of top producing life insurance agents so that you can level up your business. For episode notes and resources, visit liapodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. Also, make sure you've subscribed to our text notifications for episode releases and agent resources. All you have to do is send the letters LIA to the number 82149. That's 82149 and a message with the letters LIA. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode. Chris, what are we talking about today?
Today is I would call it the Dirty Jobs episode of life insurance.
With,
you ever see that show?
With Mike Rowe?
Mike Rowe. Yeah.
I always wonder why he wears the hat all the time.
Does he? I guess he does.
Is that his trademark?
I think it is.
He's bald under there, isn't he?
He is a throwback to a simpler time in America, and I really like Mike Rowe. Mike, I hope you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you on it.
He's like everybody's uncle.
He is, and he's a guy who understands the value of hard work, and that's why this episode kind of reminded me of that. You know, you get in the dirty jobs, and he's always wearing the boots and the overalls and the gloves and smelling bad.
You get in there and mix it up with the best of them.
He does.
Yeah.
And there's a dirty jobs aspect of life insurance that we don't think about. We say this on occasion. It's blue collar work with white collar pay. And we're going to talk about how you make the sausage today. How you make the sausage.
How to make that white
accent.
collar paycheck.
That's right.
Do it with your accent.
Which accent are you talking about?
Do it with Mike Rowe's voice.
The sausage one.
The sausage? That's the Chicago accent.
Yeah.
This is how you make the sausage. Is that
it?
That's all I got, man. I don't have any accents. I can't do any accents. It's embarrassing.
Now, Chris, when you talk about the dirty jobs of insurance, you know, a lot of the thought process behind his show is just the stories of real people and what motivates them. What is the kind of the big mo of life insurance sales and mortgage protection and just insurance sales?
Well, this specific episode and what we're talking about is about momentum, and there is a dirtiness to it, I would say, because it requires a lot of work, and I think a lot of people
Grittiness.
Yeah, grittiness is a great way of
dirtiness.
saying it. No.
I mean, dirtiness. Sometimes maybe, but grittiness.
Yeah,
grind.
grittiness. You're grinding.
Get in there. Roll up the sleeves.
And go to work.
Get after it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why that's immediately why my mind goes to something like Dirty Jobs, because honestly, if you're going to make this a career, you're going to be successful, then you kind of have to treat it like it's on some aspects of it, like it's a job. You have to treat it that way. And we've had some calls from agents recently, and man, I'll tell you what, the most refreshing ones are the ones who are like, yeah, man, I got to get off the phone. I've got to go to my next sit. Or they approach it like it's their business, and they've got the work to do.
Yeah, I love it when they call up and they're like, I'm just clarifying this, and this, and I want to make sure this was right. And is this how this is done with this carrier? Yes, great. All right, man, I got to go. I see my client at the door. I got to go.
Yeah.
And they're rolling. I mean, they're getting stuff done in the car between sits. They're just moving and shaking.
Yeah. So there's something important about this idea of momentum and the work that goes behind it. The one thing I've kind of learned is I guess for me, I'm by nature, I'm such a laid back cat. You know, I'm pretty chill. And I remember working at a restaurant, and the common conversation was, Chris, you are so good with the folks who are here and the clients, and you take such good care of them, and they're always so happy, but you have a terrible sense of urgency. Terrible. They want you moving, in and out of the kitchen, carrying stuff. And to be fair, I'm not a fan of carrying things, and moving quickly.
Did you think you had to explain that to us?
Right. Well, our audience doesn't know that, but this the urgency that goes behind the work of creating momentum. To me, it's almost like learning another language, another mindset. Has it been that way for you? Are you a momentum guy or what?
Oh, I'm huge on Big Mo. Big Mo is
so
very,
when we
very
say
important.
Big Mo, that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Momentum.
How to get Big Mo in the passenger seat of your car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, big momentum is probably the number one thing to generating consistency and reaching your goals. I mean, without having that, yeah, you can have a good week, but how are you going to get out of the car to have another good week? Or without that being your own boss and having the ability to play hooky or convince yourself you have a headache each morning, you will probably do that 2 or 3 times a week. You will cut your week short by taking a long weekend and getting started on Tuesday or Wednesday, or you may start on Monday, but you may finish up on Tuesday or Wednesday, because you don't have that momentum or that goal that you're going for. But once you have momentum, you don't want to let it go.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get sidetracked with things if you don't know what it is that you're running for. First of all, you got to know exactly what the goal is. You got to have a weekly goal. You got to have a monthly goal, quarterly goal, yearly goal. I mean, you need to know these things. If you don't, it's not going to matter, right? It doesn't matter whether Mo's in your passenger seat or not, because you don't know what you're trying to accomplish. You don't know where the finish line is. You don't know the benchmarks. You don't know how many points are being scored on the other side and how many you got to put up. If you don't understand your goal, you can come into a weekend like this when we're coming into Labor Day weekend, and we got, Friday people kind of slide out and they're off on Monday, and then they slide in late, and then they get slowly ramped up on Tuesday. Before you know it, it's Wednesday of next week, and you're just, oh, this week is gone. I'll just get started next week. So literally a holiday weekend becomes a 10-day break, and you just blew, the momentum that you had created or you were hoping to create. It's easy to slide like that, drift, when you don't have a mission, when you're not on mission. And there's a good word there, drift, because if you think about a boat with no sail and the wind's up and the current, you're at the mercy. You're drifting. You're not in charge.
So this idea of having conviction about what you're trying to accomplish, how do you know that you need momentum? Or how do you know your goals are demanding momentum? Because you might have set some goals, but they may be really, to be fair, they may just be really crappy goals.
Really lame goals.
Really lame goals, Like Austin said, the sports ball people who play March Madness, the coach is like, guys, congratulations, we made it. We made it.
Like
so,
to what
we
is
made
it?
it
64, 32.
We made it to the first round, and we're going to go out and we're going to give the best high fives, and we're going to score 20 points, hopefully by halftime, and we'll consider that a win. Like that doesn't do anything. That doesn't get anybody excited, or doesn't get them excited. So I'm
Well, I mean, the hardest thing about this business of being self-employed, if you're an independent agent and you're not on the clock, or you're not working for a company, you're not employed, is you're in control of that. And you don't have a competitor. There's no opponent necessarily, right? I mean, in your sports ball analogy,
your mortgage.
Yeah, in your sports ball analogy, there's no competitor on the other side putting up points against you, which you're trying to hang with or overtake or beat. And so you have to create those things for yourself. Yeah. So do your bills demand it? Is the government bailing you out right now so you feel no urgency? Is your household income kind of being taken care of by maybe another person that lives in the house and you don't really feel a sense of urgency? Maybe you've downgraded your dreams and goals and you thought, well, this is, we're comfortable in this place. Or
that's a big statement, man. Downgrading your dreams. I think that is the question of this idea of, does it take something more than just an idea that I can spend half a day and write an application or two? And I think those things you've mentioned, Roger, are inhibitors to momentum, where you can use something, this may be offensive, maybe not, as an excuse. You can use it as an excuse to not really ever have to chase your goal or your dream.
I think people aren't patient enough to allow momentum to generate itself. Like people
Does
want,
it generate itself?
it can. I believe so.
So if you sit at home, will it start generating?
What I'm saying is they're not patient enough to let things, happen.
Let the process work for the momentum
because
to build.
They want an instant result right away.
Correct.
And they decide to throw in the towel or give up or change course way too soon.
Yeah, that first chargeback hits and it's like, oh, I'm going home.
I have a philosophy about momentum that I strongly believe, and it's always been the case for me. And I know I've talked and I've told this to many agents, and it somehow always turns out to be true. And you have to do all the little things right, but you also have to have patience. So you have to go and set a goal, have those things that are very important for you. You need to have great activity. You need to be able to grind it out. I'm talking about whatever you think you're capable of working your absolute hardest, of seeing number of people, sitting with people, practicing your presentation. And I'm talking about grinding it out on a weekly basis. You do that your first week out there. And this is either generating it for the first time or trying to coming off a long break or a pandemic or time off or vacation is how you regenerate it, okay? You do that for 1 week and you work as hard as you can, and you will be disappointed. You will be disappointed because you expected your results or your numbers to equal the effort you put in, but it's not going to happen that way. You'll probably end up writing, 2,000, 2,500, but you felt like you should have wrote 10,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. You do that and you move into week number 2. You do the same exact thing. You grind all week long, great attitude, didn't give up, went out early, stayed out late, did all the right things. And you're disappointed again because you wrote, 2,500 or so. But you felt that you should have wrote 8 or 10. Now, week 3 comes along and you do the same exact effort. But guess what? You're going to write that large amount of production. It's going to happen. You're going to write 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, whatever it is, and your results are actually going to equal your effort.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's because momentum is delayed. You have to have patience for it. The actions that you did in week 1 will pay out in week 3. The actions you did in week 2 will pay out in week 4. The actions you did in week 3 pay out in week 5. So as you notice, you can't break that momentum. You can't break that attitude, that activity that you put in, that grind, the not giving up, not quitting. If you don't change any of that, those results will start to fester. They will start to pop up. And then guess what happens? After week 3, week 4 is good because week 2, you had amazing effort. Week 5 is good because you had amazing effort in week 3, and so on. And as long as you don't break that cycle and you don't plan another vacation or another time off or something to completely end it, then you will continue to produce at a high level, given the fact that you don't celebrate your wins and you don't say, I've been doing good or my bank account's growing. I'm going to now change something like your activity or the number of days worked or leaving home early. If everything else stays consistent, Big Mo will keep riding.
The one thing we talk about when we bring on new agents is I use an analogy about a rocket launching, and because previously before I did this, I was a rocket scientist. Everybody knows that.
Because you're the numbers guy.
Yeah, because I'm the numbers guy. You do a lot of calculations, and calculators are everywhere. Yep. But when you're launching,
is that what you think NASA is? It's just calculators.
It's Texas Instruments everywhere. But
that's another company.
There's yeah, Houston's involved. I know that because there's problems, and you call them.
And that's why Texas Instrument makes calculators.
It's in
Houston.
It makes
Texas.
perfect sense.
Okay, perfect.
So when you're launching a rocket, it takes almost all the fuel to get it out. You're fighting gravity. You're fighting forces that work against you, and you're trying to get into orbit. And a lot of agents, Zach, I think you said it so well, is a lack of patience. We want everything, popping out of the microwave in 60 seconds or less. And they don't give themselves a chance to learn from the process. So most of the energy that you're going to use if you're getting launched is going to come in your first 3 weeks. And I would say and everybody takes vacations, and you should. Everybody has time off. You should take it. But understand that after you take that time off, you're probably going to go through that same thing again.
Oh, 100%. It resets. But you can...
The dang reset.
It's just what happens, right? I mean, like you said, that rocket. It can't stop halfway up and then
feel like going to outer
stand
space
still.
today.
You can't shut out the fuel before it gets out of orbit
Right.
and then expect to refire it.
It doesn't work. But what you can do is if you have that coming up, you can prepare for it and put that extra effort in and front load all that production or your bank account or your money. So then you're not panicked when you are trying to hit that reset button and you know it's going to take you 3 weeks of grinding before you get the results that you feel you deserve. And you're not panicking for income and then poof, you're out of the business.
I mean, to Zach's point, it's not always a direct correlation. Like week 1's activity doesn't yield the specific results in week 3 or week 4 because like you might have closed some or you got some yeses and nos. They don't necessarily, like we're not talking about all your appointments are reset for week 3 from week 1. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about your physical activity and your approach to your work week, your attitude, the momentum and energy that you're creating will start yielding results. It's like in January, guys, everybody knows this. In January is pre-pandemic. In January, pre-pandemic, January is the highest sales for fitness clubs, health and fitness clubs, gyms. I mean, they sell memberships out the wazoo for a year. And by the middle of February, how many people have realized it's a dirty job and are still actually in the grind? All right, they still got their sleeves rolled up. Or how many people have bailed out because they didn't lose 10 pounds and 5 inches in the first 4 weeks?
I thought everybody stopped going to the gym because they had instant six packs right after 4 weeks.
I don't think it works that way.
It just doesn't work. I mean, I remember when I was running a lot back in my 30s when I was running a lot, and when you first go out and you're trying to get like reacclimated, it's in the dead of winter because you're usually running these races that are in March, April, May. Around here was associated with the Kentucky Derby Festival, and there was a series of races, and we go out and start training like in the winter at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and you got to get... And it is horrible. It is terrible. Yeah. You're getting started. Everything hurts. You run like 2 miles. You get up the next day. You can't walk because you haven't done anything. And it's just, why does anybody want to go through this? And you keep going and you keep going. And I was telling you a story when we were prepping for this the other day. Like 3 years into that, I decided or 4 years into that, I decided I wanted to run my first marathon. And it was just such a big number to me. Like I'd run a bunch of the half marathons, which are like 13.1. And then
what is a marathon? How many miles?
26.2.
No human runs that far. It's not
trust
possible.
me, that's not a big feat anymore. And so you make the decision to go for a marathon, and it's such a massive number over what you've been doing. But then you put in the time. And if you don't have someone beside you when you're doing this or training with somebody that holds you accountable to have an opponent or a competitor virtually, someone...
An arch enemy.
Figuratively. It doesn't have to be... obviously, you want an ally. The allies are the best.
They're
obviously.
the ones who help, not
the
arch
allies.
enemies.
Yeah, so you're doing it together with someone else. So when they're having a bad day, they're not having a bad day, and you can lift each other up. You get into 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of training... and you're going out on a Saturday and running 13, 14 miles for a training run, well, once you get up to 18 and 20 miles, and then you have to taper back down and someone says, let's go run 5 miles, like that's not very, in your mind, it's easy. It just becomes easy because you have created the momentum. You've done the work. Mm-hmm. If I was to think about running a marathon again right now, I'm starting from zero. Yeah. I'm on the ground. The rocket's not even turned on. Yeah, and you got to fight gravity. And so you got to be prepared to put in the numbers. So, Zach, to your point, I think it's a numbers game. And if you put in the effort and start doing reps on the numbers and, retiring all your leads, making all the phone calls, working every lead as much as possible till it's retired, you get a yes or a no, and you've committed that every week, and you're staying in that for 2, 3, 4 weeks, the momentum starts to build. It starts to come. I will say
on that, to be clear, week 1, you have to have all those things. It has to be an all-out week. It can't be the week 1 in the business, I'm going to start trying to do it now, and you go through the motions. It's
That's what I
all
hear.
out.
I'm getting ready to start.
Dude,
People go, I'm fixing to start. That's a Kentucky term, right?
Yep.
I'm fixing to start. I'm like, does
like
that
a
mean you're
disease.
doing it or you're not doing it?
I'm a gonna-itis. Oh man, I've got I'm a gonna-itis.
I was going to ask a question because I think it's very apparent that Big Mo's got a cousin.
Okay.
Big Mo's got a cousin, and it's Lil Mo. Lil Mo. And every time you have to generate momentum, you need that other cousin with him. It's the buddy system, right? And I think that's motivation. Can you have momentum without motivation?
I like that analogy,
That's really good.
young Zach.
But think about it, because you talked about having the people and the competition and people running next to you, and it keeps you going.
Allies, yeah.
That's Lomo. That's motivation right there. But
I think that's support. I think your motivation has to be a personal decision, your why, what you're trying to accomplish. And then you find support to go with it, and that helps you create that little
exactly.
Yeah.
You told us a story the other day about you ran your fastest pace mile that you ever ran because there was a husband and wife that kept running and trying to lead out in front of you, and you didn't want them to.
I did not want them to get no.
and you just kept smiling and just kept going a little bit faster, and they did the same. And so like you developed a really fast speed, and I would call that a good momentum going because that was over how many miles?
That was a 10-mile race.
A 10-mile race. So I mean, that's a pretty long ways. I mean, to me, that's like 100 miles. But like doing that, you had that motivation that helped you with that. In our business or as agents, you can't just, and this goes back to the point of that week one of really grinding it out and retiring all your leads and putting in your maximum amount of effort and giving each client you sit with the best you. You can't do that without having that motivation first. Because where is that desire going to come from to even want to develop momentum or to want to grind out for a couple weeks knowing that your results may not equal the effort you put in? And if you don't have that motivation, you also won't have that patience to understand that no matter what, no matter if I don't sell anything this week or if it's only 2,000, even though I worked my tail off, I'm going to get up and do it next week regardless of the results this week. And then I'm going to get up the week after that and do the same exact thing regardless of the results the past 2 weeks. That motivation helps you to keep that eye on the prize so you can develop Big Mo.
One of the things that happens, I think, in that first few weeks, if you're trying to create this momentum, and this is one of the things that people discount all the time. They do not allow for this in their life. Nobody ever plans for things not to go right. They always plan for things to go perfectly, right? It's going to go exactly like they told me in training. It's going to go exactly because this next week I have no distractions. I'm going to wait because this week I have some, so I'm going to wait till next week when I have none. Well, guess what? Next week you're going to have some different distractions. So like prepare for distractions, manage them, and work through it. So the thing that happens, I think, when you put your foot down on the gas and you try to create momentum is you start realizing you don't have all the things that you need. You realize there's gaps in your process. You realize there's inefficiencies in your system. You realize there's things that you've forgotten that you should really be paying attention to. And you start like eliminating those things. Like, I won't do that again, or I should have done that, or I should have had this set up before I got into this house. I know I have a new product. I probably should have studied that before I got in front of the client and was ready to write the application. I don't have the box of files in my trunk. I took it out and I didn't put it back in. That won't happen again. Like, you start realizing all the things that you need to be efficient. An elite athlete doesn't show up at the gym with tons of stuff he doesn't need. He also doesn't show up in the gym with stuff he absolutely needs, right? He shows up with the stuff that he absolutely needs every time because he's done it so often. He knows exactly what it takes to perform at an elite level. And that's going to be different for every person and every sport and every industry. But I think when you're trying to create that for the first time, you will start eliminating those things and your efficiencies go up. Your understanding of how to make things better, how to move through processes faster, it all starts to change for you. Yeah, you get to week 3 and 4, and it's like, okay, I'm getting into a good rhythm. I'm not out of breath. Yeah. I'm actually running, and things feel okay. I don't feel like my legs are going to fall off. We're going to do this.
I want to say something about this idea of everything being perfect. it's very interesting to me that this entire industry, insurance, the insurance world, is built on the idea of large numbers, or the law of large numbers, so that you get enough people in a specific pool, then you'll be able to afford to pay out, death claims or health claims, because you have a mix of healthy people, some unhealthy people, all this stuff. The thing that just blow my mind. If you want to blow my mind,
was that a blow my mind
I
sound?
thought you were
Yes.
taking off on your rocket ship.
yes, is that the agents who want to get the most. They want to get the most. They understand there's a law of large numbers in the insurance industry, but they want to get the most with the least.
Yeah.
I want to write 150, 300,000 a year, but I want to do it on 10 leads.
2 days a week.
2 days a week. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And man, everything has to go perfect in that world. Everything has to go perfect. I mean, the people have to be home. I can't get, people who are outside health parameters and age parameters together. I can't, every single person has to be a yes in that scenario. And you aren't giving yourself enough opportunities to make mistakes on your side to learn from.
Well, likewise, Chris, you said the whole industry is built on this law of large numbers, right? Mm-hmm. It's also built on the fact that something is going to go wrong when you do not expect it. That's why we buy insurance.
That's the whole system.
But yet in the sales process, we discount that. Like nothing's ever going to go wrong.
Right.
If you plan for that and you outwork it, you can overcome that and overcompensate. And like Zach said, you can put things in the tank. You can prepare ahead of time for that vacation that may be planned or unplanned. Because sometimes you got to take time off because of a family situation. If you know that could be a possibility, then prepare for it and outwork it now. Outwork it now.
And I'll say if okay, maybe finances is an issue for you. Maybe that's a fact. And maybe you are having issues investing in your leads. Then you better find another way to get in front of people. Like, use your leads to go talk to neighbors and Cloverleaf, like we talk about, going to see the people across the street, and your energy and your enthusiasm about the product. We've seen this with people who have come into our opportunity and they've worked some age leads, or they had limited income where they could only afford a certain amount of leads. We've seen their enthusiasm about the product sell to family members and neighbors and all sorts of stuff. But it is completely up to you to generate it. And you can't, what are you going to do? Are you going to look around and blame somebody? You don't get to do that. It's completely on you to get the wheels rolling.
Yep. We had an agent engage with us just recently. Great guy. And shout out to Dameron on this one. And this guy can write business, and said, how's the best way for me to re-engage? And exited the business for a couple of reasons. And I said, man, I would get some secondary leads, some aged leads down there, 40, 50, 60, whatever it takes. And I would just go to work and start seeing those people. There's going to be money and opportunity in those. And, we started a campaign for him on his leads, and those are starting to come in. But before those even started to come in, he was able to go out and take less than 20 leads and saw, 11 or 12 people. He's already written 4 applications for like $2,600 in production on that, just on the side, just trying to create some activity.
Yeah, and when you say re-engage, and secondary leads, can you kind of explain why you A, suggested secondary leads, and B, what does that mean? Why is that a way people can engage or start building Mo?
Well, if there's secondary leads available in your area, and a secondary lead would be a lead that's already assigned to somebody else but never been sold. For some reason, the agent didn't see them. Maybe it was a husband and wife situation. Only the husband was seen in the sit. The wife was never seen. They couldn't get back. The wife said no to the husband. There's a lot of factors. Maybe it was that they saw them and they just didn't like that agent. And that agent didn't connect with them, or didn't find out their why, or they felt like they were pushy. There's a lot of variables in there why a lead generated doesn't turn into an application.
And typically it's a little older. It's not a brand new lead.
The ones he's worked are a year old.
A year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A year and a half old.
Yeah.
And these are 18-month-old leads. And
You know what that is in lead years? That's a year and a half. Just so you guys know, if you're keeping track.
And so the reason why this was a good way for him to re-engage or to start before his regular new leads started to come in was because These are available to them at little or no cost because of the age of the leads. And as an organization, we have those available all around the country in different places. So it's a great way for people to engage, to get rolling and create some free income, getting the practice and getting that first week to create the little mo so they can move into the big mo. And it's awesome to see. It's just someone who's putting their foot down and going and making good things happen. I told them, if I was re-engaging, this is what I would do. If I were you in your area, I would do exactly that. And we just talked last night on text, and I said, dude, it's happening. It's happening. Another couple applications before the week's out. You got a $4,000 to $5,000 week put together. He says, 100%. It's happening. That's great. And he's on a mission. He's on a mission. So I'm proud of that guy. But those are ways to create momentum.
So momentum, the great thing about momentum is it doesn't take talent or skill. It just takes effort. It's just pure effort and activity and just understanding and a willingness. And I see it all the times. I mean, we run across agents that are extremely talented, and they can sell, it seems as if almost everybody they sit with. We know that doesn't happen for anybody, but it's almost to that point. Like, what's going to happen when they go to work. But there's the point, is when they go to work. I see agents all the time outright more talented and more skilled or natural salespeople that are really good in the home just because they put in the effort, and that this industry is a numbers game, and they develop a momentum and they don't let that momentum break. It creates a consistency, and they develop and have a huge, awesome career in life insurance when maybe they're not as natural in the sales process as somebody else would be. And you see that all the time.
Mm-hmm. When recently we interviewed one of our top producers, and we asked, what's the secret? And he literally was like, I just go out and work every week. Like, that was it. He's like, every week I have the number I'm trying to hit. It's always generally the same number, unless he knows he has something short coming up. And he does the same thing. Like, he's committed to basically keeping up his momentum. Like, that was his secret, is start momentum, keep it. Just stay consistent. Run.
Yeah, consistency is such a big deal, man. And all we can do is tell ourselves the truth. The word, I'm just telling you, as a human being, the person who gets lied
Still
to the
waiting
most,
on the results.
Yeah, the tests will be in soon. But the person who gets lied to the most is generally yourself. Like,
by yourself.
From you. I don't.
Yeah, the person who lies to you the most.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
You.
That was the Yogi Berra version, or the George W. Bush version of that. Yeah. We lie to ourselves all the time. We lie to ourselves. And we will say, man, I worked really hard this week. But worked really hard means I probably, in the insurance business, worked 18 to 20 hours. I mean, your numbers will not lie to you. They won't lie to you. They will tell you the truth. And you have to look at your numbers and your activity to find out if you have the momentum on your side or not. Look at your leads. Do you have enough leads to put momentum on your side? Are you seeing enough people?
I mean, one of the key caveats, key components to what you just said, Chris, is you have to be aligning with other people who are doing what you're doing, or you don't know how well you're doing. It goes back
That's
to
a
that.
really good point.
It goes back to that March Madness analogy. Let's go try to put up 20 points by halftime, and if we do, it's a win, right? Like, if you're not comparing yourself to others in the industry who are doing well, you feel like you worked really hard until you see someone really hustle.
Yeah.
And when you're up against a hustler, you realize I am doing nothing.
Right.
And then you realize the truth is revealed because you've got someone who is truly working hard. And then it's that hard work that can create a momentum and really an ultimate talent, because you said talented people sometimes without hard. It was Kevin Durant who has the famous quote that says, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard.
Oh, man.
Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. So, like, you've got to align yourself with some other shooters.
Yeah.
And you realize they're at practice early. They stay at practice late. They're putting in the effort. They start early on Monday, and they work through Friday, and they even have some follow-ups on Saturday. They create a work-life balance for themselves and their family. They take care of the things that they need to, but they're on it.
Yeah.
They are on it. They have a mission. They're on point. And when you start putting yourself up, so if you're not aligned in an organization where you can see what others are doing, where you can align yourself with others who are running and achieving and having success, that you can even access as a resource to say, hey, how do I do this? How do you do that? Give me some feedback. How are things going? What are you doing to create this? I mean, that in and of itself, sometimes people think it's about the leads and the contract. And how many times do we say that has nothing to do with it? It
so
has to do
often.
with your work effort, the return on investment, the value and service you're getting from the organization you're connected with. The networking that you create in this business will propel you forward far beyond what a contract will. And it's invaluable. It's invaluable.
Did you always have this energy? Did you always have Big Mo in your seat?
Absolutely not, Austin. Absolutely. No. If you're in life insurance, you don't always have Big Mo because you don't start with Big Mo. And I would say the biggest way to overcome that is to understand what it feels like to struggle. Understand what it feels like to have anxiety about a door knock, to wonder if, to really have to grind it out to pay your bills, to really get started. Like Chris talked about earlier with the rocket ship. Like that is not a super comfortable time. And to overcome it, you have to know what that feels like, and you know what to do to overcome it. I mean, we've explained it this whole episode. I mean, it's all the things that are tough and grindy and practice and get better and really give it everything you got to get into orbit. But once you've been there and once you've felt that, you don't want to go back. So that's what motivates you to continue that momentum. Like for me, like I hesitate and I don't ever really take vacations simply because I don't want to break my momentum, because I know what it's going to cost me to get that back. I know how it's going to feel. And when I have it, it's so easy to maintain, man. You're just cruising. It's almost like you're going slightly downhill out there. Everything feels so easy. You're just rolling. As soon as you go wake up on Monday morning, you go to your first door knock around 9:30 or 10 because you got a great early start, because you're still doing the things you need to be successful, and you're going to get an app. And then you go to your next door knock. Maybe they're home, maybe they're not. But you're going to get another app. Then you're going to eat lunch. Then you're going to get 3 or 4 more apps. And then you do that day in and day out. It relieves the pressure. You have the momentum. You're not stressed out. And that feels great because it's easy. So the best way to prevent that, Austin, is to never fall back into it. Don't do the things that are going to knock you out of that momentum. So you're not struggling. So don't be lazy at finishing up your week on following up in your business. Don't decide because you're doing good to cut your week short or to go home early because you sold a big app in the morning. Like all of these little things, I know you guys might have some more examples, but like knowing what it feels like to not have momentum motivates me to never let go of momentum when I do have it.
There's a couple of things about the business that you have to do, right, to be successful. Number one, you have to put in the activity of seeing people, the RGA, the revenue generating activity. Is the revenue generating activity getting your trunk prepped? Is it doing your study on the products? Is it familiarizing yourself with a new company and a new sales process and a new e-application? Is it studying for a new license that you're trying to get? Like, is that revenue generating activity? The answer is no. Is it necessary, however, for you to be successful in the business that you're pursuing? The answer is yes. So where do you fit that in? Sometimes it's a simple decision about where we fit those things in and how we prioritize them against the thing that really creates momentum affects us being able to create momentum or sabotages our momentum. I am an analyzer to an extent. I'll be surprised about this, but sometimes I'll get dialed in on something new and I chase it down a rabbit hole. So Austin, I have some of your genes. You know this. You and I think similarly on certain things, and we like the detail of it. We like how we almost want to know what the end result is going to be. We do all the analysis and research to make sure our purchase is the very best. I know Zach is like that too when it comes to buying things. Chris will walk into a golf shop and realize he left his shoes home, and he'll buy the first pair off the rack, put them on, go to the tee box. Yeah, I don't need to warm up. Let's go. Right? I mean, so there's differences here in all of us. But when we're prepping for something new, we can just take our eye off the ball on what is the priority of the thing that creates momentum, and we can put it on something else. We feel like we're busy, but we have just killed our momentum. We've taken ourselves out of the game. Like, do those things on downtime. Do those things early in the morning between 6:30 and 9:30 while you have time to do them and it's not impacting your ability to see people. Do them on Fridays and Saturdays, when you can put in some time to do that. Keep that prime time slot for seeing people. Remember, RGA, revenue generating activity, the people who prioritize that the most will have the most success. But I have found myself caught in that trap. I've got to learn this new carrier.
I'm caught in a trap.
Yeah, and it's Monday afternoon at 2:00, and you're trying to get started because you wanted to learn everything about how the new e-app work. I mean, it's a momentum killer, and you can get caught there.
I think for me, getting started as a new agent was such a big deal. You're only taking the word of people, and they're people that you trust, but you're taking the word of them. So I know there are 18 billion people listening to this podcast right now. I think that's our audience size right now.
That includes Mars.
Yes. Yeah, the people on Mars. They're listening and they're taking our word for what we're saying. And the thing I had to learn, and this became an epiphany.
An apostrophe.
An apostrophe. That's what I was trying to remember, right?
That's a callback to Susan Scott.
This is part of the process. This is a part of it. Like going through the suck is part of it. And it took a long time for me to understand that. And one of the challenges for me is, I don't know, like just this little bit of self-preservation. I wish I started with both feet in versus how I started, because I did it part-time for about 1.5 years. Because I was a little afraid, and Roger would say, burn the boats. I'm like, I don't own a boat, Why am I burning stuff? I'll get arrested.
Burn the bridges then. Something. Burn something.
Burn something and go forward, and
take the rear view mirror out of your car.
But there is something to that. Well, very powerful message. It's very powerful because it takes your focus and puts it on the process. And you understand, man, I really have to get good at this really quick, and I have to put the time in and the attention in on this to be successful. That's part one for me. And I would say the other part, as far as like being in the business for a while, the thing I would lose major focus on was my level of energy. Like I can flatten out really quick when I'm starting to get tired. And I would talk just monotone in my sits and talk about how the product works great for Mrs. Jones.
Chris, there's
people
driving
hey,
right
sorry,
now.
wake back up, everybody, wake back up. But my energy level would get so low, and it was affecting my momentum. It's not just doing the work, but it's how you do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So those were some big pieces for me
Can I ask you
personally.
a question?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who, me?
The guy over there with the white beard.
Yes, sir.
You were part-time for a year.
18 months.
Yep.
1.5 years, excuse me.
Yes, thank you.
And how much is that in insurance terms?
18 months.
In insurance years, it's 18 months.
Good. Now, a lot of people listening to this they possibly are part-time right now. When was the first time you felt that you were gaining momentum being part-time?
I don't think I felt like I was gaining momentum part-time.
At all?
No.
For the first 1.5 years, you didn't feel Big Mo at all?
I might have had some good weeks, but it took many conversations with Roger and I. He's like, "You're losing money."
I think there was a turning point for you, and maybe it wasn't like
refresh.
It wasn't
my memory.
instant. It wasn't like a moment that you can probably point to. But you were building money in your bank account.
Yeah,
the money in your bank account from your business was going up. Mm-hmm. And yet you were stopping that, and you were going back to the job, the job,
right?
And so we would get there. How you doing? You had another $3,000 or $4,000 a week on your 3 days. Okay, how does that make you feel? Good. Okay, and so your commissions. Let's look at your placement. Let's look at your persistency, your chargebacks, your cash flow. Let's do the numbers. Chris, you're losing money by going to work at the job. You realize this,
yeah.
right? And so over time, basically his body of work, let's put it there, your body of work became so clearly evident to you that you decided I have to pull the trigger. I mean,
Correct.
And I respect that. I think that's obvious. Anybody in part time, they could that story is probably very similar to them.
I will say this along with that. Okay,
Yeah.
is here's another big piece of that was when my focus shifted from sales to trying to build something. That was huge.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not talking about. I guess the point I'm looking for isn't necessarily are you successful part time or going to full time. Obviously, anybody in this opportunity. The way we believe about it, I don't care what you're doing now as any job or what your friends are doing as any job. If they're doing this part time, they're going to realize quick, and I can show you you're losing money by staying at your job.
Right.
I get that, but I'm talking about momentum. You obviously made money doing this part time. Obviously, started making more money doing it full time. But momentum's like, hitting the booster in that car, getting that octane boost, and you go that extra, and you go a little bit faster, a little bit more.
Nice.
And that money starts coming in a whole lot quicker. And the reason I say that, Chris, because there's people that are full-time now that don't have momentum. But I know you, and I know that your part-time was probably what a lot of people's full-time is now. But when you were actually able to go full-time and put in that effort and all the things it takes, like when did you feel that difference?
Well,
That it wasn't just full-time income. It was like, okay, now we're going to a whole nother level, because I would guess it's probably at the same time you started thinking about building.
Well, I was going to say it was an idea of taking ownership of what I was doing. That
it was no
ultimately
longer
the
this thing I'm
difference.
doing on the side.
Right.
This is everything.
This is everything, and
So
it's
it's
my
a-
thing.
it was a mindset shift.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
But even when you decided to take that mind shift, it probably didn't start the next day. Right?
No,
So
it was a process.
getting those weeks in there really starting to accelerate that. That's just interesting to me, because I didn't know that. I mean, I
Right.
didn't know that like, dude, you're in the business a year and a half and didn't really have any momentum at all. But yet you still were able to survive, which is impressive because, I mean, that rocket ship took forever to get up, man.
Well, I think it was the thing I was looking for was the confidence-competence relationship of I felt confident enough, to take full ownership of what I was
So
doing.
when do you think you really could burn the boat if you had the boat?
If I was back then?
Yeah.
Oh, probably 6 months in. I mean,
6 months in.
Yeah.
It still would have taken you a little bit of time.
Yeah, it would have taken a little bit of time.
Because
but-
for you, it was like sales, you've never done it.
oh yeah,
It was a confidence thing. You were trying to figure it out. We put you in a different area to work
Yeah.
leads every week. We put you in some of the toughest parts in Louisville.
It was
to run
was
leads.
such a different world than what I was used to.
Yeah.
And a lot of things had to change in what I believed about sales, what I believed about myself as a leader. And I know I'm not the only one. I mean, I know people are on this call saying, "Man, I know what you're talking about." Yeah. Yep.
Chris, I remember distinctly when you made the decision to move, like the way you get cocky and confident about stuff now, right? We see it now often, right? Much more often than we did then. You carry this swagger.
Walks
about certain
around like
things.
he's the
That's
Rock.
That's the COVID way.
Well, he's the Don. He's the Don of the office. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, so come into my office. And so now there's a swagger there, but that has come with time, repetitive results, consistency of effort, consistency of results. But it's overflowed in every area of your life. But I remember when you got into that position where you went full time, now everybody else needed to get in the business because this was the best thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
And you weren't selling them hard, but the way you spoke to people about what this opportunity was came from a strong position of strength. And because of your character and credibility in your network, people responded well because they saw you do it. They saw you be successful. And if someone who's never done this before can walk into this industry and be
Chris
successful,
can do it. Anybody can do it.
and,
Roger,
I mean, it was amazing to see that transformation.
you've seen hundreds of agents in life insurance come and go, different groups everywhere. Can you visibly see momentum on people?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can see it. You sense it, you feel it. And you feel it in their words, their language, their approach. I mean, it's all the little things that you see them do. I mean, if we had to go across all of our agents who work with our agency right now, not necessarily all broker agents, because we don't always see what they're doing. But, people that work with us directly with our agency, their language, when they're communicating with you, how they communicate with you. I mean, Chris and I went and grabbed a quick lunch before this podcast, and we had one of our brand new agents who literally first week this week and is over 8,000, and today is Thursday.
And counting.
And counting. He's still writing more, 10 or 12 applications. First week out, he's like, I got to try to get these leads finished. That was, he hung up. He goes, okay, guys, I got to go. I got to try to get these leads finished and get home tonight. And you can tell, but that guy's engaged. He's reaching out. He started early. He's posting apps at 10:30 at night, just leaving a home. Like, he is moving.
So if you can see it, would you say it's contagious?
Yes. Yes, it is contagious. I mean, it's like sports ball, right?
So if it's contagious in a positive way, then it's obviously contagious in a negative way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Was that a leading set? You led me right there, didn't you?
No,
Exactly.
Wouldn't you agree?
Wouldn't you agree? That there's negative momentum. Yes.
Well, I mean, sometimes you can see agents, and you have to be aware of your energy, because it looks like they just got hit by a big water balloon before they walked in, and it's like, there's just like there's
vinegar.
Unbelievable. But here's the thing, like, they may not be aware of that, but like that affects so much, because you don't want to look like you just got hit with a water balloon and you're walking up to a door trying to get into a home. So you wonder why it becomes so much easier, so much harder when you have this thing called Big Mo. It's because it is contagious.
No-mo.
It's contagious to other agents. It's contagious to the people that you surround you. It's contagious to your family when you go home. And it's contagious to each and every client that opens that door on the other side.
100%.
You know what else is crazy about momentum? Momentum makes your leads either the best leads out there or the worst ones in the industry.
Oh, I know. It's
Isn't that
amazing.
funny?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like they transform with your attitude. They all turn green and crumple up if you got bad momentum. And if
They
not,
just turn to dust.
right. And if you got good momentum, all of a sudden, they're golden ticket, and they harden up, and
I can't get it now.
exactly. They're heavy, and you carry them up with a suitcase to the door.
It's very funny. It's very true, man. And if you're fighting for momentum, this is the tip of the day. Okay. If you're fighting for momentum, then you probably are at your first door or making your calls, whatever, at 10:30 in the morning, and you're getting home. If you're getting home before dusk, you are not fighting for momentum. You aren't. So use your days, use them wisely. Your leads are amazing. This is an amazing opportunity.
Also, if you're fighting for momentum, you need to have a true expectation and patience of when the results are going to be there and what it's going to take. And if you don't know, just hit rewind. It was about 15 minutes ago on this podcast that you hear what it takes to generate that momentum. But once you have it, hold on to that and embrace it. The moment you take your foot off the gas and celebrate it is the moment that car starts slowing down. And guess what? Now you got to accelerate again to go back up.
I went to Cancun this last year, and we had the opportunity to paddleboard and go out and learn how to sail on a little dinghy.
Dinghy?
Yeah.
A Hobie Cat?
Yeah. No, it wasn't a Hobie Cat. It was a little tiny sailboat.
Okay, cool.
Little tiny sailboat with me and Julio. And we went out, and he spoke some English and was teaching me how to sail. And, the whole idea of catching the wind, and sailing is such a big deal. I mean, that is everything. It's sailing. And, we'd get to the spot, and I didn't have my sail in the correct spot, and we're just sitting and looking at each other, He's like, well, he showed me how to do it. Now it's my turn. And I'm just moving the thing back and forth, waiting for the wind. And then all of a sudden, like, the wind grabs it, and it's in charge. The wind is in charge. I'm not in charge anymore. And it's pulling us like at a high speed, and he's like, okay, now get on the other side. You got on the other side. I'm ducking underneath it, and we're trying to spin around, and same thing.
Now you're just directing.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden we stop again, and then I have to move the sail around again, and boom, it grabs again, and we go, and I tipped the boat over and made a big mess, and And he was so nice to me.
You flipped
And
Julio out
at
of the
least
boat?
I think he was nice to me. He was saying these words in a different language that I didn't understand, and it was a high volume, but I'm sure he was saying nice things.
He was saying, "Great job, Chris."
Yeah. But I learned, I mean, that is such a thing about momentum. You know, you're learning a process. It's a new thing. It takes time. Be patient. You're going to flip the boat. It happens. It's unavoidable, but it doesn't mean you've wrecked your life. It doesn't mean the business stinks. It's just part of the process. And everybody who's been successful, they've all gone through this and understand it. Every single person who's ever done anything great has gone through this and understands that momentum is something that you work for and move towards.
I would say the biggest single contributor once you start to catch some wind is to surround yourself by other people who are racing in the same direction, who are going in the same direction, because you will feel energy from their boats, or you will feel energy from how they're playing the game. You'll feel energy from the locker room at halftime when someone needs a pep talk and they're trying to turn the momentum in their favor. We've all seen it. We've seen it in Super Bowls, in March Madness. We've seen it in every kind of sporting event where you feel the energy turn. If you've ever been in a college football stadium and it's a big game and you feel the momentum shift, the crowd feels it. They see it and they feel it. And people they're getting goosebumps. It's an emotional change that takes place in an individual. And if you can surround yourself with other people that are going in that direction, you get caught up in that success wind. And don't ever think, well, I just want to do it my way. I want to do it on my own. Like, no one's too big to surround themselves by other winners. The most successful people in the world realize that if you change the way you think, you can change the way you live. That's a John Maxwell quote. But if you change the way you think, you can change the way you live. And the only way to change the way you think about things is to get around other people who challenge your thinking to go further, to go bigger, to go stronger, to accomplish more, to create more, to have better results. And they will pull you in that direction.
If you can transfer momentum through a podcast, I think you just did. I think everybody right now is going about 5 miles an hour too fast in their car. They probably need to slow down a little bit.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope this put Big Mo in your passenger seat. And if it didn't, reach out to us. We'll connect you with his cousin, get you some motivation, and get momentum in your business. To reach out, just visit the show notes page, liapodcast.org/EP35. That's liapodcast.org/EP35. And get a hold of us. Get in touch. Ask us your questions. We'll be happy to help. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Severo. This episode was produced by Chris Ball and myself. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We'll catch you on another episode, including next week's show. Until then, stay safe and go be a difference maker.